As far as plan target is concerned, I think Ivan Pape made it quite clear and put it in very clear historical perspective. And then of course there was a reference to do not let hatred over people incite you to be unfair to them. That's suggesting that to the Palestinians. Suggest that to Shahira, whose family was slaughtered in this way. Suggest that to Nabil. Suggest that to Tabrib. Speak to all the witnesses and talk about what fairness and unfairness is in this world as far as it affects them. So let's put things in clear perspective. It was suggested that the Holocaust is so different, and so I just want to show a very short, just photographs, right? Shattered lands, no doubt. Very short photograph, since they want to compare, to show the comparison, and that ends my submission with these photographs. Thank you all. This is a comparison of the Holocaust and what Palestinians are subject to. Just come back again to the beginning. Yeah, so it's Germany 1940 on the left, Israel 2009 on the left. That's talking about the general situation in the occupied territories as well. Okay, so children. Next one. Again, children on the left, children on the right. Barbed wires. Next one. Okay, so you have children on the left, children on the right. Carry on. Then you have these kind of barricades. Carry on. Then you have these soldiers on the right. You have to straight naked. Carry on. And then you have this population on the left, population on the right. Next one. Then you have this. Next. That's right. That's it. An old man on the left, the woman on the right. Next. Okay. This is the migration of people, and we also showed it in the book. There are about 500 photographs in the book that we have tendered already, showing this particular kind of scenes. Next one. Yes, so here you have it. That's the wall. That's the analogy with the fact that this is similar to Sabah and Sarawak, where we have to enter, Malaysians have to enter. Next one. This is it. We saw the gates there. Right. This is Israeli children on the left, Israeli children on the right, signing on bombs. Yes, children on the right. We heard Samoni talk about his 4-year-old with bullet holes in the head, in the chest. So, this is it. This is what we are talking about. The face, if you want to compare. I mean, we don't want to show these images only because it was suggested that, you must not compare it with the Holocaust. And as I concluded, this is a modern day Holocaust with the most advanced weaponry. We saw rain of fire, white phosphorus and so on and so forth, killing people every day, every moment, and even as we speak now. Thank you.
Your Honor, I just quickly want to respond to the defense closing submission, the written submission, just analyzed earlier. Page 7 there, 7 and 8. I'll go just very quickly. The first comment that they made is that this Yaron, the General Yaron, should not have been charged. He was not directly responsible for the death that occurred in Sabra and Shakila. And then they went on further to say, very interesting one, they did not see him do anything. Of course, they did not see him do anything because he did nothing. He was supposed to stop all the killing. He didn't do. That's why they didn't see anything. Now, the charge here, if you look at the charge is that Amos perpetrated all these crimes in his capacity as commanding officer, and when he knowingly, he didn't do it himself, he knew what other people were doing. For knowingly, not for directly causing the death. That's the first one. The second one is he mentioned that why only Yaron was charged when there are other 9 fellows, 8 other people who should be charged. In fact, the other people are more senior to him. Now, the issue here is that Yaron was charged because he was the commanding officer, solely responsible to keep peace, to ensure that there is law and order and no killings or torture of any kind in that place. He was the only one responsible, nobody else. And that's why he alone was charged. The others may be responsible for other things. Directly responsible to ensure that there is law and order in that place. That's why he alone was charged. The mention about George Bush, and I think that is irrelevant and different issues entirely. I think that's all that I want to say. That Yaron was correctly charged, being the commanding officer, and he knowingly facilitated and permitted the massacre taking place in the 2 camps. I pray that if he comes guilty as charged. Thank you.
Dr. Matthew will take the first portion and I will continue. Very short points on this.
May it please the Court. Your Honors, I have 3 specific points, and these will be brief, I assure you. Firstly, in response to the last argument put forward by the prosecution, that Amos Yaron did not do anything. He was supposed to do something. He was supposed to maintain law and order. I noted earlier I referred to the prosecutor versus Sufir Halilovich case, decided before the ICTY case, decided before the ICTY on 16 October 2007. At paragraph 59, they deliberately and explicitly considered this issue. And again, I quote, "A police officer may be able to prevent and punish crimes under his jurisdiction, but this would not as much make him a superior vis-a-vis any perpetrator within that jurisdiction. The accused must be, by virtue of his position, senior in some form of formal or informal hierarchy to the perpetrator. If the prosecution is maintaining that Amos Yaron is accountable on the basis of superior responsibility, this governs. If the prosecution is maintaining individual criminal responsibility, his position does not actually play a role. Secondly, in regards to individual responsibility, since the prosecution has now included this in their arguments, which had not been included as of yesterday, 2 things must be specifically considered by this tribunal. First, what was the precise role of Amos Yaron in the acts that occurred in 1982? And secondly, what was his specific intent? And again, the prosecution has failed to prove this case. They have proven that his statements were callous, reckless, and indifferent, but this does not engage the threshold required under dolus specialis for proving or substantiating an act of genocide. Furthermore, to clarify that matter, I invite the tribunal to refer to the Jilicic decision before the ICTY. Thirdly, and lastly, the prosecution at the time.
Is there a reference for the
The reference for Jilicic was, my apologies. Prosecutor versus Goran Jilicic. The trial chamber's judgment was released on 14 December 1999. The appeal chamber's decision was rendered on 5 July 2001. And at the heart of the appeals...
in your bundle of documents, sir?
Pardon?
Is it in your bundle of documents?
No, sir.
No.
Maybe I can help. It is in our bundle of documents, bundle 2D, small I.
In particular, Your Honors, I would direct the court, I would like to invite the court's attention to paragraphs 42 through 64 in the appeals decision. Finally, in regards to the case as a whole, it is true that this tribunal may infer intent. However, in the present situation, the prosecution is calling upon this tribunal to infer a policy as well as make an inference of intent, which is effectively asking this tribunal to render a decision based upon an inference, which is based upon an inference, and attempt to justify this as beyond reasonable doubt. With that, I rest my submission.
I will just continue and I'll try to do it in 5 minutes. Okay, first I will respond on the Yaron charge. Now, the counsel for prosecution stated that Yaron was charged because he was the commanding officer to keep the peace. He was the only one responsible. That's why he alone was charged. That was their answer as to why only Yaron was charged for this particular case for charge 3. If we look at the Kahan report, 4 pages from the end, I'm sorry, I'm not able to give. The Kahan report, 4 pages from the end, right at the bottom states, the Minister of Defense, Mr. Ariel Sharon, I'm reading, we have found, as has been detailed in this report, that the Minister of Defense bears personal responsibility. In our opinion, it is fitting that the Minister of Defense draw the appropriate personal conclusions arising out of the defects revealed with regard to the manner in which he discharged the duties of his office, and if necessary, that the Prime Minister consider whether he should exercise his authority under Section 21, capital A, bracket A of the Basic Law of the Government, according to which, quote, the Prime Minister may, after informing the Cabinet of his intention to do so, remove a minister from office, unquote. The BBC reports on the 8th of February 1983, Sharon resigns. Sharon was looking at a dismissal. Why wasn't Sharon charged? The Kahan report, which they themselves have cited, puts the blame on Sharon. They cannot have it both ways. They cannot say, look at the Kahan report to say everything bad about Sharon, but ignore the part of the Kahan report which says Sharon bears personal responsibility. You cannot have your cake and eat it too. For the submissions by the learned counsel for the prosecution, that to say that because the population is increasing, therefore the claim that there is, to say that because population is increasing, there is no genocide. No. And says that, now there are so many Jews. Does it mean that there was no Holocaust in 1939 to 1945? Well, that's the whole point. The Holocaust happened from 1939 to 1945. There was a time period, 6 years. 90% of Polish Jews died. That is a Holocaust. When 90% of your people die, that's a Holocaust. Now, if the prosecution maintains its charge, and I'm reading from the charge itself, the fourth charge, the conclusion is A. The cumulative intent and effect of the serial pattern of acts of the defendant as hereinbefore outlined and particularized amount to the initiation, intensification, and continuation of a settler colonization genocidal process begun in 1948 and continuing even today. If they are asserting that there is a continual genocide, there has to be less Palestinians today than in 1948. That is not the case. UN says it so. That is the answer to the first point. Keeping up with the news. Prosecution suggests that we keep up with the news. We suggest that the prosecution stop citing the incidences of the Keys and Pope John Paul II. That was 2 popes ago. Dershowitz, is he an unashamed apologist for Israel? I'm not going to break privilege. I cannot comment further on Alan Dershowitz. I am sorry. And I'm sure the meaning of my statement is known to all, or almost all. Goldstone. There's a suggestion that what Goldstone wrote in the Washington Post and New York Times were an afterthought. We don't really know. Perhaps he saw the light or he understood things better. Apartheid state. They quoted Jimmy Carter's book. Well, Dershowitz in his other book, The Case Against Israel and Israel's Enemies, has an appendix dedicated to this. Why Jimmy Carter is wrong, the facts, and it starts from page 229 of that book. It's there. And before, if I may, the photos that were shown, comparing the Jewish Holocaust to the Palestinian Holocaust. Our point that was made by the articles referred to in Shattered Lands, photos can be posed. After the photographs from the Jewish Holocaust came out, and they were shocking, we knew what Holocaust meant. We knew what bodies piled one above another meant, what it looks like. Would it not be that the photographs of the guards and the barbed wires are all posed for a propaganda purpose? Were they propaganda photos? They could be. Is the state of Israel killing the Palestinians in an industrial manner that was done by Nazi Germany against the Jews? No. There was no such thing as a Nazi Germany citizen who was also a Jew. It was not possible. Is there a Palestinian Jewish person? Is there a Palestinian in Israel who holds Jewish citizenship? Yes, 20%. Comparison is not the same. It's not the same. And yes, I'm sorry, that is all. Thank you.
I wish to thank both sides for having deliberated and making your submissions at length. And we feel that looking at a case, we like to return until tomorrow, 3 o'clock, when we will deliver our verdict. And we now adjourn until tomorrow. Thank you.
All right.